All right, this is big time coming at you with some local stories and some defensive gun use as always. So, coming out of New York City, illegal immigrants shipped to Canada from US with government funded bus tickets. We are there for them as they continue to move on with their pursuit of this dream, New York City Mayor Eric Adams said when pressed on the fact that migrants are fleeing the country with the help of taxpayer funded buses. Yep. It has been revealed that many of the illegal migrants receiving government funded bus tickets to leave New York City are using the free transport to flee to the Canada. To flee to the Canada? Come on, post millennial. The busing of migrants to different locations is just one of the many moves city officials have made as they struggle to accommodate the unprecedented influx that has occurred in recent months. The program was intended to keep them within the United States. However, many have exploited a loophole and made a break for the Great White North. According to the New York Post, one of the destinations offered to migrants via the program is Plattsburgh, a town in the northern part of the state just 20 miles from the Canadian border. After picking up their New York State taxpayer funded tickets from soldiers stationed at the Port Authority bus terminal on 42nd Street in Manhattan, migrants hop on their respective buses and the journey begins. When migrants arrive in Plattsburgh, shuttle and taxi drivers stand poised to transport them up to the border. As the Post reports, shreds of torn up American immigration documents referencing the Department of Homeland Security have been discovered on the floor of the shuttles, indicating that migrants were attempting to leave the country. Tyler Tambini, who drives one of the shuttles, told the Post that he sees around 100 migrants per day. They get dropped off, and I take them the rest of the way, he explained. Those who make the journey into Canada are promptly stopped by members of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and arrested before taking them in for processing. That's all for show. The reason for making the illegal journey vary. The reasons for making the illegal journey vary. According to the Post, many migrants said they were going to Canada for a better quality of life. Peruvian native Susie Sanchez Salazarno, 33, crossed into Canada on Friday morning with her husband and two daughters after one of the girls saw a video on TikTok of other migrants doing the same. The family spent about a month and a half in a Queens hotel that was converted into an emergency shelter. I wanted to live in New York because I thought it would be a better future for my daughters, she said. But as the days went by, I saw insecurity, many homeless people, many people who shout and are disrespectful, and many people on drugs. But bro, you should have just gone to California. That's a better utopia than, or Portland. I'm going to Canada for the safety and future of my. Yeah, okay. I only ask God that everything goes well and that Canada is not like the United States. Well, don't worry when Trudeau takes away all the rifles. You'll be stabbed to death by some Somalis. Someone to go to Canada, someone to go to warmer states, New York City Mayor Eric Adams said when pressed on the fact that migrants are fleeing the country with the help of taxpayer funded buses. And we are there for them as they continue to get the fuck out. According to the New York Post, an estimated 43,900 migrants have flooded the city since the spring. More than 28,400 are living in 83 hotels and 5 humanitarian emergency response and relief centers. So New York's allowed. So New York is a Democrat hellhole is allowed to get rid of him, huh? That's interesting. 13-year-old girl harassed by gender fluid male lesbian. Furries at New Hampshire Middle School. Mother's testimony. The concerned mother said that in the weeks that followed, the trans identified male students bullied the girls in retaliation for these victims making a complaint to the school's administration. Okay, so here are the pedo adjacents. Here are the people who approve of pedophiles, who are anti-biology. Let's see if the mom had anything to say. A New Hampshire mother gave powerful testimony last month in favor of a bill seeking to preserve female-only spaces, in which she told of how her 13-year-old daughter is being harassed at school by a male student who identifies as, I don't care. Samia DeMarco told the House Judiciary Committee that the male student is allowed to use the girls' facilities at her daughter's school, and how the student once left the stall door open while urinating. On another occasion, the male student and a group of transgender friends, some of whom identify as animals entered the female locker room and watched the girls changing.
Do this before bed to stop receding gums and decaying teeth before it's too late. 25% of adults over...
Sumia DeMarco, please.
Close enough.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. I'm also here speaking on my daughter's behalf, but I'd like to start by sharing a couple of statistics with you. 1 out of every 6 American women have been a victim of sexual assault, and I stand here before you as one of these women, which often makes raising little girls emotionally difficult. For example, I spent the morning of my daughter's 11th birthday sobbing in the shower. I have also struggled with a desire to live and suicide attempts landing me in the ER until I became a mother. Not because of my gender identity, but because of childhood trauma and a bad combination of various depression medications and lorazepam. So I do feel deep empathy for anyone struggling with self-loathing and suicidal thoughts. I truly do. But I have a 13-year-old and a 7-year-old daughter in the Milford School District, and I have spent the last 13 years doing everything in my power to protect my girls and to do my best to ensure that they do not become a statistic. I work very hard to ensure they don't end up in a situation where they are vulnerable. So it was incredibly alarming and disheartening to learn from my middle schooler that the school is allowing an individual who was assigned male at birth that now identifies as a girl, at most times, I've been told the student is gender fluid, and a lesbian to use the girls' facilities. I say lesbian because they were caught at recess making out with their girlfriend. Even though there are unisex facilities available, the school is incredibly timid about addressing these issues with that specific demographic, and I am told that a gender non-conforming student cannot be segregated into a single stall restroom, that it makes them uncomfortable. I do not want any child to feel uncomfortable or as though they aren't accepted. And I do support freedom of choice in most areas, and I strongly believe that your rights should not infringe on anyone else's rights or safety. The same transgender student was urinating in the girls' bathroom with the stall door open when my daughter and her friend entered the bathroom, but their complaints to the guidance office were brushed off. So I have told my daughter to use the unisex bathroom and to share this information with her friends who are also feeling uncomfortable or unsafe about the situation. And there are many. I have spoken to dozens of parents, but I'm struggling greatly with the idea that once again, I have to tell my daughter that she needs to change her behavior to protect her innocence and her modesty. This is in a publicly funded building that I should feel confident about her safety. And while I can instruct my own daughter on how to avoid compromising situations, we are exposing other little girls to potential danger or discomfort. Our state needs clear guidance that addresses genitalia, not gender identity. If you have male body parts, you should utilize the male facilities or an available unisex bathroom, and vice versa. We can't expect an entire female student population to use a couple of single stall bathrooms, also shared with the teaching staff, while a small group of kids have free reign of the other facilities. Logistically, it just makes no sense at all. And we are also telling these little girls that their collective comfort and safety comes second to these few people feeling affirmed. Our young girls were exposed in the locker room when this transgender individual and their friends, some who also identify as animals, came in and watched them inappropriately. Then over the following weeks, continued to bully them and make rude comments about their bodies in retaliation for these victims making a complaint to the school's administration. By allowing this to continue, we are telling our little girls that their bodies aren't sacred, there are no repercussions for these offenses, and we won't be doing anything to ensure their safety and comfort. Please consider the damage this is doing to our pubescent daughter's already fragile sense of self and work to put something in place that makes all of our students feel safe at school. My last thought is this: women's rights were an important topic for decades, but now women's rights are seemingly exclusive to pay gaps and abortion rights. We are being trampled in the interest of progressivism. Our feelings no longer matter. We are being told there's nothing that can be done for fear of a discrimination lawsuit from the LGBTQ+ community. So I urge this committee, please vote in support of passing this bill.
Questions for this witness? Thank you very much. Seeing
Thank
none,
you.
thank you.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. And that's really a shame. But ultimately, it's just going to come down to two things. And at least this is my opinion. You have two choices. In my opinion, these people are weak, or they're true believers and they're pedo adjacent. This is going to turn into another Loudoun County where they had a boy with mental delusions sexually assault two different women in two different schools. And the answer was, after the first school, to just ship them to another school. So this mom, your answer is either you have to get your kid out of this fucking insane asylum, or you have to get like-minded people like you in these seats. That's the only way it's going to change. And I'm not even sure if it's going to change. DeMarco was speaking at a public hearing for House Bill 396 relative to the state recognition of biological sex. I don't think Israel's going to like that. This bill seeks to preserve the state's ability to differentiate between biological sexes in areas such as athletic competitions, prisons, restrooms, or places of intimate privacy. New Hampshire currently allows citizens to select whatever gender they choose on their driver's license. So this legislation would clarify that spaces are segregated by a biological sex. I don't know, that sounds like an objective standard. And not a person's self-declared mental delusion. DeMarco told the committee that she was a survivor of sexual violence and that she had spent the last 13 years working hard to ensure that her daughter doesn't end up in a situation where they are vulnerable, which is what the school is doing. She described feeling alarmed and disheartened to discover that the school was putting girls at risk by allowing men to use the girls' room. That's where it starts. When her daughter complained to the school about the male student's presence in the girls' bathroom, the school brushed off her discomfort and told her to use the unisex facility. The school is incredibly timid about addressing these issues with that specific demographic, and I'm told that a gender non-conforming student cannot be segregated into a single-stall restroom, that it makes them uncomfortable. You probably have to fight against the ACLU, DeMarco said. The concerned mother then told the committee that in the weeks that followed, the trans-identified male students bullied the girls and made rude comments about their bodies in retaliation for these victims making a complaint to the school's administration. You're also going to have to tell all the girls they have to stick together. They're going to have to start going everywhere in groups. You're going to have to start, look, that's just what it has to be. You know, you got to start thinking about survival now. How you're going to survive. That survival is before winning. Okay? By allowing this to continue, we're telling our little girls that their bodies aren't sacred, there are no repercussions for these offenses, and we won't be doing anything to ensure their safety and comfort, she said. Please consider the damage this is doing to our pubescent daughters' already fragile sense of self and work to put something in place that makes all our students feel safe. DeMarco said she was struggling with the fact that she has to tell her daughter to change her behavior to protect her innocence and modesty because the state has failed in its duty to protect her. This is a publicly funded building that I should feel confident about her safety, said DeMarco. While I can instruct my own daughter on how to avoid compromising situations, we're exposing our little girls to potential danger or discomfort. Danger. Our state needs clear guidance that addresses genitalia, not gender identity. If you have a dick, you need to use the dick bathroom. Let me just make it simple. Women and girls being asked to either ignore their fear and discomfort or use a unisex facility is becoming increasingly common because men with delusions demand access to women's spaces to match their self-declared mental delusion. In British Columbia last month, a trans-identified male hit the headlines after going public about being asked to use a co-ed gym rather than the women-only gym. Bridget Klein Simpson is considering filing a human rights complaint after the gym owner prioritized the safety and privacy of women and girls over Klein Simpson's feeling and desire for validation. You mean potential rapist. Last year in Ontario, Josh Alexander was suspended from his high school for staging a single-sex bathroom protest after some female students had confided in him that they were uncomfortable being stared at by men in the same space as them. One of the trans-identified male students said in an interview that the school had offered the use of a unisex bathroom, but he acted like an illegal immigrant and said it's his right to go wherever he wants. And everyone should do as he says. Alexander remains excluded from school and is also considering filing a human rights complaint. My last thought is this. Women's rights were an important topic for decades, but now we're being trampled in the interest of progressivism. Our feelings no longer matter. We're being told there's nothing that can be done for fear of a discrimination lawsuit for the LGBTQ community. So I urge this community, please vote in support of passing this bill. Yeah, so again, I mean, good for you for making yourself a target and standing up for your kid, but we're past the point of words. You either have to get your kid out of the school or you have to run for the city board. You and 10 people like you. You have to get rid of all these fucking people, every single one of them. All right, next. More, they're coming for you. They're coming for the women, not just the kids, the women. I have uncontrollable sexual urges. Trans activist caught in 2 separate pedophile stings, wanted to impregnate teen girl. So here's the psychopath. A trans-identified male was caught attempting to sexually abuse children in 2 separate predator stings at 2 different locations by 2 different pedophile hunting groups. Danielle Edney, 30, was first caught attempting to meet who he believed to be a 13-year-old girl for sexual abuse in May of 2022 by the predator hunting team Stop Stings. Months later, Edney was caught a second time in an unrelated sting while attempting to meet a 14-year-old girl for sexual abuse by Pest, Predators Exposed sting team. Edney sometimes goes by the name Ariana Grande. Oh boy. According to his Facebook profile, Edney is the founder of Transgender Trust. Edney previously attempted to crowdfund £13,000 for his charity, but failed to raise any money whatsoever. In the crowdfunder description, he described Transgender Trust as a charity and himself as the charity director. Transgender Trust is not registered with the UK's Charity Commission. This company will provide support and advice of all lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender men and women, their family, and friends. In May of 2022, Edney was caught in a predator sting after communicating with who he believed to be a 13-year-old girl. The account was, in fact, a decoy managed by the predators hunting at Stop Sting. The group explained that Edney told the 13-year-old to pack an overnight bag and bring her school uniform and bikini. He also reportedly instructed the decoy to visit a sexual health clinic for condoms prior to the meeting and reportedly spoke of using restraints on the child. At the intended meetup spot, Edney was confronted by the pedophile hunters who then passed the evidence over to police, who probably did nothing. A man who documents predator stings, identified only as Rob, uploaded video of the confrontation for documentation purposes to his YouTube, but his channel was then suspended from the platform. Oh, of course. Of course. Can't make pedophiles look bad. Rob says his YouTube channel, which documented Edney's crimes, was then taken down for hate speech. He believes this was because of claims of transphobia. Yeah, being a child fucker isn't transphobic. Let's pause. I was told I give my opinion too much, so here's what I think of people who hurt children. This is what I think of you if you hurt children, okay? If anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. That's my opinion of pedophiles and anyone else who hurts children. Back to the article. I had it covered, but it was removed by YouTube. They didn't allow my freedom of speech on the subject only because Danielle identified as trans. They actually deleted that channel as a result, despite me not making any transphobic remarks. Despite the May sting, Edney confirms he was 29 years old at the time and was attempting to meet a 13-year-old child. Oh, confirms. He makes the excuse that he seeks out children for sex because of his lack of success with adult dating, and also stated he has a lot in common with 13-year-olds. He admitted to predator hunters that he had been previously arrested for impersonating a police officer at the Pride Parade in Crowley, West Sussex, because he'd been carrying police-grade handcuffs. He claimed the handcuffs were for protection, but didn't specify from what. I'm a trans woman of God. I'll tell you the truth, Edney said during his first sting, before confessing to talking to children online since 2019. He also claimed he was struggling with demons who directed his actions. Okay, the majority of this incident is my fault for some if it is down to my demons, Beelzebub and Lucifer, Edney told the pedophile hunters. Footage of the May sting was uploaded to Twitter on January 29th and began to attract attention. I'm afraid to play it. I don't want my channel to be taken down. Ultimately going to have to fucking move to Rumble. Edney was ultimately arrested on May 14th following the sting. He was released from custody shortly after and soon became increasingly vocal online against pedophile hunting groups while using the social media handle Sussex Bail Bonds. I agree that all pedophiles are sick and disgusting, but at the same time, they also have rights to work and to contribute to society. And it's not the job of these pedo hunters to take it away from them just to suit them, but who remember NAMBLA back in the day. Yes, but you don't have the right to try to meet up with children and do things to them. You might want to say maybe it was a form of entrapment, but ultimately, that would be like me going online and somebody saying they'll sell me a bunch of drugs, illegal drugs, and then I go to buy them and then I get robbed or killed or it's a sting. It's like, I didn't have to buy it. In December of 2022, Edney would be caught in a predator sting once again by an unrelated pedophile hunting group initially aware of his past criminal history. Steve, a team member at PEST, Predators Exposed Sting Team, led the second sting against Edney and told Redux he was only made aware that Edney was a reoffender when he came across Rob's videos on Rumble. When I was initially investigating Danielle Edney, I had no idea he had previously been stung and reported to the police by another voluntary team until 72 hours before my sting operation. I came across some information online during my research on the build-up to the interception of Danielle and found video footage on Facebook and YouTube of Danielle's first sting, Steve told Redux. Rob, whose YouTube channel has been deleted after complaints from Edney, passed his information on to PEST during their operation. Ah, that's right. So the dude who wants to fuck kids gets favoritism. I like that. Steve from PEST told Redux that he had spent 7 months building a case against Edney throughout 2022. He explained that Edney had connected with a number of children online, including multiple accounts from decoys operated by PEST's online investigation team. Steve explained how Edney became particularly interested in one decoy account established to appear as a vulnerable 14-year-old girl. Danielle couldn't resist what he believed to be a child to meet him for sex following online sexual grooming, Steve told Redux. He even arrived armed and protected in a security vest to defend himself in case he was caught by a pedophile hunter again. Edney attempted to meet the decoy in December of 2022, but was instead greeted by pest hunters Steve and Stacy. During the second sting, Steve and Stacy confronted Edney about his sexual conversation with a child who he reportedly said he wanted to impregnate. They also made him aware they knew he was a reoffender. Oh, wow, look at this. So he has a vest but no weapons. This guy is interesting. When asked why he pursued children for sex, Edney repeatedly insisted that he had uncontrollable sexual urges. He stated he had never had sexual relations before and consumed pornography as well as used sex toys to address his desires. Well, you can do all that. Just don't go after kids. But I mean, I guess a Christian would say that the porn and the toys leads to going after kids. They'll make that connection. Because I've not had sex in my entire life, I've not had what you guys have got, which is a proper relationship, Edna told Stacy and Steve. Well, I mean, okay. Let me give you some red pill advice. Get a haircut, fix your teeth, start going to the gym, and get a tan. Start there. Lose 40, 50 pounds, put on 10, 15 pounds of muscle. Like, the hunters asserted that a lack of sexual partners was no excuse for seeking out children for grooming and accused Edney of being a pedophile. PEST passed evidence onto police and Edney was again arrested. Steve said he felt that on occasion the police response was very professional. The Crown Prosecution Service were fantastic in getting Danielle remanded into custody following him being reported for the offense on the day, Steve told Redux. The hunter also says he is confident that his sting will result in Edney being convicted. I am more than confident Danielle's offenses will be taken seriously enough to have him convicted, yes. Especially after Danielle was immediately placed into custody on remand following until his court date. Both my evidence and the other voluntary team's evidence will be produced for his conviction. Despite his confidence, Steve did note that he believes the courts can be too lenient on predators like Edney. Oh, you don't say. When asked for his recommendations for parents who want to safeguard their children in the digital age, Steve strongly suggests parents routinely check their children's online activity and monitor where they end up on the web. Safeguarding starts at home. Sexual predators are using online social media accounts and gaming apps to get into your homes and to your children. Well, that's terrifying. And another article we have is from the Federalist. DeSantis forces College Board to temper anti-American classes, but the war has just begun. Yeah, I mean, he seems to be doing stuff, but we'll see. The long march through the institutions must meet a long march back to sanity. DeSantis' battle with College Board is just one of the many necessary engagements. For decades, Democrat and Republican politicians have forced Americans to fund schools, nonprofits, and bureaucracies that undermine our personal well-being and country. You don't say. And they also do it at gunpoint, too. Breaking this wicked pattern of political sloth, Governor Ron DeSantis resisted when College Board applied for Florida public schools to teach its anti-American African-American studies class. Due to DeSantis' courageous and principled stand, College Board backed down. The massive curriculum and testing organization last week released a revised version of the grievance studies class scope and sequence, which it had formerly kept secret from the very taxpayers funding it. And I'm curious about that. And so what we'll do is tomorrow or one day this week, we're going to actually take a look at the course, because I've heard so many people talk about it and complain about it, both on the right leaning from DeSantis and a lot of black people, and from left leaning saying it's racist, but no one actually talked about what was banned. So I'm going to read it myself and see whether it was right-wing propaganda or whether it was left-wing CRT, white people in America suck bullshit. Which are formerly kept secret from the very taxpayers funding it. College Board removed most of the overtly Marxist and violence-baiting study materials and added a token Black conservatism option to its long list of voluntary essay topics. The course still shamefully lacks any note of, for example, Clarence Thomas, one of the best legal thinkers in world history of any ancestry. Well, he doesn't count, but because he's a conservative. He can probably tell you what a woman is, but Ketanji Brown Jackson can't. Remember, Ketanji Brown Jackson went easy on the black kid who was looking at cheese pizza. She gave him 3 months. And then 5 years later, he reoffended again? She's not a biologist, guys. I can't tell what a dog or cat is because I need a veterinarian, right? It is also still clearly tilted politically left, including by omitting serious study of the deep and wide African-American tradition of Christian worship. Scholar Stanley Kurtz summarizes the changes in National Review. Nearly every now omitted topic was filled with socialism, CRT, or some other radical perspective. Originally, an entire topic was devoted to Franz Fanon's glorification of violence and its influence on Black radicals in America. That topic is now gone. Another topic one-sidedly excoriated American further policy in Haiti. Gone. Oh, that's right. It's my fault that the fucking gangbanger barbecue has now taken over Haiti and they're having a crisis, right? Yeah, it's my fault. The gangs in Haiti are white people's fault, right? Okay. The unit on Black queer studies? Black queer studies? What fucking Black people want to learn about queer studies has also been deleted. DeSantis won the showdown with Governor Pritzker. A topic on Afrocentricity, the scholarly legitimacy of which is very much in dispute, is gone. Also gone is a CRT-based unit calling color blindness racist. In direct violation of Florida law. Units plugging reparations, prison abolition, intersectionality, the socialist platform of the movement Black Lives, and the revolutionary meditations of Marxist radical Robin D.G. Kelly are likewise gone. It's a clear political win for DeSantis. His choice to fight advanced his voters' interests. Indeed, he has advanced national interests, as funding its enemies obviously endangers any nation. That is axiomatic, but connections that basic apparently needs to be made nowadays. As usual, every single Republican needs to learn from DeSantis' example that going to political war for your voters is a winning strategy. So in other words, having a pair. Still, it is not in Americans' interest that, even in a more moderated form, this kind of class be taught anywhere, not in high school, not in colleges, because it's fashionable to attack what a conservative did not say. Let's be clear. African American history is American history and should, of course, be taught richly, fully, and accurately to every American. But African American studies classes are not the same as African American history classes. They're about identity politics, grievance mongering, which is really about pushing cultural Marxism. Well, James Lindsay calls it race Marxism, the division of Americans into bitterly divided grievance groups that pave the way for undoing Americans' constitutional individual rights. This is the antithesis of the American creed and of American happiness. That distinction is at the core of this dispute. Of course, lazy pundits wish to avoid this distinction and call their opponents enraging false names such as racist, or in other words, ad hominem attacks, rather than engage with their actual anti-racist ideas. One of these ideas is that what's racist, as well as anti-American, is to demonize entire groups of people, such as the American founders, rather than treat every person respectfully as an individual. In rejecting this class, DeSantis bravely withstood an evil barrage of false accusations of racism, another model his party of Lincoln should follow. Wow. African American let's calm down a little bit. Yeah. African American studies is to African American history as diversity, equity, and inclusion is to genuine human equality. That is to say, it presents itself as the opposite of what it really is. It preaches history while really providing agitation. This inherent deception, a core Marxist tactic, is yet another reason to reject its peddlers. They don't operate in good faith, and they shouldn't be treated as they do. African American studies gurus don't really want to teach African American history, but they want you to think they do while they really do something evil. The whole thing is a con. Good for you. Increasingly, group hatred is the true goal and majority outcome of all identity politics classes, which are typically labeled some kind of studies. These departments and universities have for decades worked to pit Americans against each other, and in doing so divide the United States so we can more easily be ruled by centralized diktat instead of self-government. These departments are not true academic departments. They are political entities whose goal is destroying Americans' ancient rights and liberties. The National Association of Scholars, Peter Wood and David Randall, both highly qualified humanities PhDs, document this in an excellent scholarly essay. Let me see. Afro-American studies is not, as the name suggests to the casual reader, an interdisciplinary study of African-American history and culture. It is rather a pseudo-discipline devoted to myth-building and political activism. The trouble is not that College Board proposed African-American studies classes. APAAS fails in its attempt to be the equivalent of an introductory college or university course in African-American studies and related courses, including Africana studies, African diaspora studies, and Black studies, but that it succeeds. African American studies is not an intellectual discipline. It is a political project to forward a radical conception of Black liberation based upon the presumptions of identity group politics. Their essay documents that African American studies sees itself as an openly activist and revolutionary enterprise. Hey, look, if you don't want to be around white people, don't be around white people, okay? You know, if you want to suck the vag of Patrisse Cullors, also understand that as much as she doesn't like guns and as much as she doesn't like police and as much as she doesn't like white people, she lives around white people in a mansion with armed guards who guard her and protect her with guns. Okay? So she's full of shit. Its end result is Black Lives Matter riots, racial hostility, systemic racism against people of lighter skin hues, and government control of everyone's labor. There are other words for that. All this was reflected in the initial, more honest College Board class outlines it kept secret from parents and taxpayers. As Kurtz notes, the revised course is still biased with some substantial strands of radicalism left intact. College Board wishes to trickle these activist departments' divisive Marxism down from higher education into high school. That's what its advanced placement dual credit program is designed to do, Woods and Randall note. College Board presumably will use the African American Studies APAAS precedent to create further courses in studies disciplines such as Asian American Studies, Disability Studies, Ethnic Studies, Gender Studies, Native American Studies, and Women's Studies. No U.S. taxpayer-funded school at any level should be teaching any studies class. This nation needs a lot less Marxism, not its expansion into every younger American's minds. Again, leading the way on this, DeSantis has proposed that Florida's legislature erase division, equity, and inclusion efforts from state universities, including identity studies. Not just Florida, but every state should ban, defund, and punish every aspect of this institutional racism. Kurtz, Wood, and Randall have made other good ideas for policy entrepreneurship here, including from the letter that policymakers should remove all activism courses from the dual credit and dual enrollment systems. Kurtz recommends states beef up American history requirements through purveyors such as American Achievement Testing. Much more work needs to be done in every avenue imaginable. Children and teens history books, teacher credentialing, a huge one, grant programs, student funding, legitimate historical scholarship, establishing new schools, and more. Reversing cultural Marxists' long march through the institutions will require many patriots to fight long and hard. Any people in leadership positions who don't want to lead effective culture war sorties should step aside for those willing to prudentially wield the powers voter bestow. Most of America's education institutions are run by its enemies. This is an existential threat and must be treated like one. Yeah, so like I said, we'll go over the AP course tomorrow. I'm interested to read that. All right, so let's get to the defense of gun use. I got 2 videos today, one from Connecticut and one from Philly. So.
Well, Brent, police have identified the suspect who was shot and killed as 26-year-old Jashar Haslam of Hartford. Now, police were on scene all of last night and all of this morning, and that shooting took place in that small business behind me.
Hat was too much awful. It's white and it's not right. It's not supposed to be in this area.
Longtime East Hartford residents say it is not the first time this part of Main Street has dealt with crime. Shortly after 10:30 Thursday night, they came out to police swarming this business called Humble and Paid Company. Bruno's Liquor is across the street from the business. Manager Nadeef Singh knew something had happened.
Came in and I saw the cops there, and I was just really hoping anything didn't happen to him.
Police say 26-year-old Jashar Haslam and another suspect, both wearing black ski masks, walked into the business planning to rob the owner.
And you know, I'm going to say that that's clearly obvious. If people look, if people are walking in your store with Pusheisty masks and hoods and they got their hands in their pockets or under their shirt, you better be reaching, bro. Your hands better be on whatever you got, and it better not be mace.
Show Haslam had a criminal history of selling drugs and violating his probation.
Oh, you mean his ankle monitor didn't keep him from committing crime?
The suspects pulled out a gun and police say the owner was shot in the back. Police could not say if Haslam was the one who pulled the trigger, but the owner did not back down.
Another struggle ensued and the store owner responded fire with his own 2 legally licensed firearms.
Based as fuck. He had 2 guns. Good for you, brother. Blow these armed robbers the fuck away.
And returned fire to the suspect.
Haslam was taken to the hospital.
Look how the cop says that. I don't know whether he's upset by this guy defending himself.
Another struggle ensued and the store owner responded fire with his own 2 legally licensed firearms and returned fire to the suspect.
Haslam was taken to the hospital.
I wonder how he feels about this guy fighting back.
Where he was later pronounced dead. Police say,
oh no, the armed robber who sold drugs and was violent dead. Oh man, now he can't be a rapper.
The second suspect eventually ran out of the business and is still on the loose. Singh telling Fox 61 he was surprised this happened considering it is usually quiet in the area.
It's a very decent area, don't get me wrong, aside from this. This is like the first time that I know anything like that's happened here.
Luckily, police were able to respond to the scene in a matter of minutes, given
wow, minutes. Wow, that's an interesting perception. So two guys, stop. Well, what?
Happened here.
Luckily, police were able to respond to the scene in a matter of minutes, given they are always patrolling downtown East Hartford.
But that didn't stop the robbery. What the fuck are you talking about? What you should be saying, let me fix it for you. Thank God the store owner had 2 pieces of hardware. Oh, the police responded in minutes and are always driving around. But none of that stopped the robbery. The store owner shooting and killing one of the armed robbers, one of the criminals, a future rapper, that's what saved his life. Get it straight. I fucking hate that when I hate it when they do that.
It's our downtown East Hartford area, so it's probably the most densely populated area. It's a high traffic area.
What does that mean? The Japanese people are densely populated and live on top of one another. Chinatown is densely. Have you ever been to Chinatown in Philly? It's densely populated. They're stacked right on top of one another. They don't run around committing armed robberies. Densely populated. Is that another phrase for black?
Now, the store owner is in the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. As for the second suspect, police are still looking for him.
Yeah, what I'll say is he got shot in the back. It probably wasn't his spine because he wouldn't be able to fire. Good on this guy for firing back. 2 guns. Good for you. They even say it they even fucking, like, how stupid is the fucking girl reporting this? Oh, thankfully the police responded in minutes and they usually drive around the area. None of that deterred the armed robbery. You dumb bitch. The guy owning 2 guns and fighting back is what saved his life. You should be interviewing him. Oh, but I wouldn't want to give people the idea that they can protect themselves, right? That sounds terrible. Let's not tell people that they should take their own security into their own hands, right? Well, don't worry, I got another one. I knew there was going to be an ad. I knew there was going to be a fucking ad.
So following this morning, a store worker shoots a suspect during a robbery.
Let's get right.
Based. Awesome. Great. Amazing. Boy, thank God they had a gun. Thank God this American citizen had their Second Amendment rights. Boy, you know, Johnny, the police can't always be there. So as I always say at my local gun range, the police are minutes away when seconds count. Why can't they ever say anything like that? Why can't they ever interview the person who defended themselves? Why do they got to interview other people? And the police, thank God the police showed up after the shooting happened. This drives me insane.
Out to Steve Keeley on this.
It's just this news station would be up in arms about somebody saying you're not allowed to have an abortion. They would be up in arms about somebody saying you're not allowed to go to a church or a mosque or a synagogue. This news station will be up in arms if a college didn't accept black people, if they discriminated. But yet the Second Amendment, for some reason, they're not happy. And wow, somebody was able to save their life. That's awesome. That's amazing. That's a feel-good story. The criminal got shot. Great. One less dirtbag. No, we got to talk about how the police showed up after the shooting. We got to talk about, the poor criminal. Jesus.
One.
All right, we got new news. The store worker who fired back at armed robbers is now in critical condition, shot by as many as 3 shots, but still was able to fire back. And this just in, as you guys were reading the lead in, somebody just showed up at Temple Hospital as police expected, and they were alerting all local hospitals, shot several times. And they obviously think it was the man here, one of 2 armed robbers, that this woman working overnight shot in self-defense. You can see it's kind of a store within a store. You see that one officer.
God, so that's typical of the black community. You got to outnumber women, just like George Floyd, right? Took 6 men to beat up, pistol whip, and intimidate, harass the Enriquez. So I'll say black.
Sir, opening the door, which looks like a convenience store. There's sodas scattered on the floor. Behind there, out of view, are 2 guns. The woman's gun who was working, and one of the 2 armed robbers' guns. So lots of evidence. And these stores, as I said in my first reports, all outfitted with the latest surveillance technology. So police will get a look at exactly what happened. Inspector Scott Small.
Yeah, but that didn't matter. You can tell people are dumb when they say, not this guy. I'm speaking about other videos I watched. They always say it's only the based sheriff in Florida who says, oh, someone tries to loot your home, you take your gun and you shoot him in the face. These weak people, oh, cameras, lights, security. They have all that shit. It didn't stop the robbery. Shooting the robber stopped the robbery.
Has arrived to give us an update on what you've learned from talking to the people inside with Philadelphia police.
This guy must be so tired of giving interviews. This guy, salute to this guy. This guy deserves a raise. This guy gives so many fucking reports in Philly.
All right, about 45 minutes after this incident took place, a male showed up at Temple Hospital with several gunshot wounds, and his clothing fit the description of one of the perpetrators who committed this robbery. And it fit the description of the perpetrator that we believed was shot by the female store clerk. So right now, we're going to try to identify if that is the person who was one of the individuals that committed this robbery, who may have been shot by the store clerk. But that's what it's looking like at this time.
And when I got the initial call from another officer to get over here, it was unknown who fired first, but this was a clear shootout in close quarters behind the counter of the store.
Absolutely. The female was behind the counter with the manager, and these 2 individuals entered the property and then entered a rear door and went behind the counter. We believe that's where they were to commit this robbery. And that's when there was clearly a shootout between at least one of the perpetrators and the female store clerk, who tragically was shot several times. Now she's alive. Initially, we both believed she was in stable condition.
It's insane. It's insane, man. I don't get it. So they went behind the counter.
She's been downgraded. Right now, she is in critical condition, undergoing surgery. So we hope that this 32-year-old store clerk pulls through.
What a strong, tough woman with good aim and red.
My bad. This looks like an old one. Oh, that's cool. Let's pull up a new one. Let's go to Gun Violence Archive. Gun Violence Archive. My mistake. That's an old one. But that's okay. People defend themselves every day. Let's see. El Paso, Texas. Store clerk shoots man who demanded money, displayed weapon. Oh, it's a YouTube video. There'll be an ad, right? Of course. My mistake. I thought that was recent. But here's a recent one. February 6th. So yesterday. So, of going from what I'm hearing, you didn't brandish the gun. You just showed the guy your gun in your waistband. But then you're surprised you got, okay, that was dumb. So you bluffed. This sounds like a bluff. So what? Did they arrest the guy who defended himself? Let's see. According to the spokesperson, 32-year-old Hispanic man, officials say demanded money and showed a weapon on his waistband, so he bluffed. He didn't expect the clerk to shoot him. Shot the 32-year-old in the butt. Police say they believe there was not a shooting. Okay. Okay, so again, like I always say, they weren't there, and it was the gun that saved the life. I still can't believe that story I read. Oh, well, thankfully, the police showed up after the shooting minutes later, and the police are always driving around this area. But that didn't stop the two guys from trying to rob the store, did it? It was the guy who had two guns, which stopped the robbers because he killed one of them. Unbelievable. Well, anyway, I'm big time, and that's news to me.